Hello, and welcome to another episode of Hacking with Friends. Today, we're going to be trying out a tool that was designed by someone who's been on our stream earlier and is a good friend of both of ours. James, thank you for coming on the show today.
Thanks for having me.
James, don't sound too excited. Wow. Today we're going to be talking about Satonic's awesome tool. Can't you muster a little enthusiasm for our good friend?
Jonty is a great guy. We do love Jonty around here.
That's actually how we met, right? Like you started getting involved with the wrong crowd on Jonty's Discord server, and then eventually you showed up at a hacker conference, and we adopted you.
Exactly. That's exactly how it went. And Jonty didn't actually make it. He was supposed to be on my flight. That was a funny story.
Yeah, exactly. We were supposed to all meet up, and Jonty was the only one who, I think he lost his password or something crazy happened on the way, and he had missed the entire conference, whereas the rest of us all hit it off and started doing a bunch of cool projects together. So, better late than never, although we were supposed to meet up this year to make up for it, and guess what happened? We didn't make it.
No, nobody did this time.
But fortunately, we all got together online, and we've all done live streams and stuff, so we have got to hang out a little bit. And the product of one of those live streams was I very subtly begged Jonty to get some of his products that I haven't actually tried before, like some of the things that Stefan has worked on, like the D-Author in its nicest, sleekest form, but also some of the things that I haven't played with at all and have no affiliation with, like the Wi-Fi Keylogger, which is the one that we're going to be taking a look at today. I figure, you know the Wi-Fi D-Author pretty well at this point, and I think we've covered it pretty extensively. So instead, I'm going to not constantly force you to install the Hunator on a variety of different programs to prove that it really works on every operating system since you're the developer. Instead, we're going to do something totally different, and we're going to look at Wi-Fi keyloggers. So keyloggers are a really interesting subject. If I just say the word keylogger, what kind of program or what kind of hardware or what do you think about, James?
I think malware, where you say keylogger, is the first thing that comes to
mind. Right.
So
More, you don't think of a physical device. You're thinking of like a program that's accomplishing the same thing.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that that's pretty common because one thing I will point out about this is a hardware device has certain advantages and certain disadvantages. The advantage is it can work completely separate from the target device, and you can configure it to really do a lot of advanced things. It also doesn't require virtually any knowledge to set up. You can just go ahead, get started with it. It even has step-by-step processes that are optimized for using free email services like Gmail, like a throwaway account or something. So really, if you're a total beginner, a hardware-based keylogger is almost definitely the best way to go because you just plug in your information and in a short matter of time, you can get up and running. Now, James, what would you say the disadvantage to a hardware keylogger is?
My mic just fell.
Whoa!
You don't need physical access, is what I was going to say. Or you need physical access is a disadvantage. Sorry.
Yes, that is absolutely a disadvantage. I would say the disadvantage is the hardware itself. The fact that you have a piece of hardware means that instantly, you're not going to be using this on a James, how would I use this on your laptop? You would instantly notice that some weird thing was sticking out of your laptop. And also, there's no way to tap your internal keyboard. So this basically cannot work at all if we're talking about a laptop keyboard. Unless somebody has a keyboard plugged into it and just isn't paying attention to some joint between USB port and the keyboard at some juncture along the way. Maybe they have a dongle that's behind their computer or something, and they use a keyboard all the time. Okay, well that's an edge case or an exception. It's not really the rule. These things become a lot less useful on mobile devices or on laptop devices than they are on desktop computers because frankly, they're noticeable. They're hardware. A program like a keylogger can run undetected in the background and never alert the person, but it does require a little bit more technical knowledge to set up and make sure that it's working properly. Unless you're just buying some sort of crappy commercial spyware, which does exist.
There's also the possibility that software keyloggers can be caught by antivirus, whereas hardware keyloggers are completely undetectable in that respect.
Right. So there is the issue of networking. So let's say that you're trying to steal passwords on a network that's on a computer that's part of a network that's totally locked down. Let's say that it's air gapped, Or let's say that it has a really intense firewall, an intrusion detection system that's not going to let you get away with exfiltrating data the traditional way. Well, that's when this hardware keylogger would actually be really, really useful for a variety of reasons. So the first reason is you can access an air-gapped system, and you can basically exfiltrate information from an air-gapped system if you can sneak this in. So let's say that there's a internal network for a small business or like a local government or something like that, that is a series of computers that are all connected, and one of them is in like a reception office. And let's say that that computer has the back of it facing towards, guests or whatever, and it's frequently left unattended. So somebody could conceivably take a keylogger, plug it into the back of that computer, and then plug the keyboard into the back of the keylogger. Okay, so the condition is set, but there's multiple ways we can use the hardware keylogger. We can either connect to the Wi-Fi network of the office if we know the password and use it remotely, or we can operate it totally out of band. So basically it creates its own Wi-Fi network and we can connect to it and download information or view information on the fly. The second option I think is really cool because it allows you to be able to access something that isn't going over the network. It isn't going over like a firewall. And there's really no way that somebody could really detect it unless they were looking for the access point, which can also be hidden if you really want it to be. So all of these things together mean that if your target is somewhere like an office or something where there's a lot of protection around it, or there's at least enough protection that you don't want to run the risk of being blocked by some sort of firewall, then you can definitely take the, or let's just say you don't know the network name and you don't have like a way for you to connect this keylogger to any data source, that you can operate this basically as an access point, and then with the directional antenna be like, blocks away, connecting to it and drawing down data from what people are typing. That I think is one of the most novel and interesting approaches. Say it's like a tall building or something. You plug this into a keyboard when you're left unattended in a room with a computer, and then anytime someone's typing away on that, it'll capture the keystrokes and you can connect to it and download basically the entire log later, or you can watch it live, which I think is pretty incredible and creepy. So I think we're going to look at a couple different advanced features today as well. James, can you name some of the features of the Wi-Fi keylogger?
You can send out a UDP stream on the... You have the advanced version or the pro version of it, right? I can't remember what it's called.
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah, so that one has... You can send out UDP streams to, I guess, any computer, and you can... well, any computer that you're connected to. And you can also connect to an email server in theory, but
in practice, we're still testing.
Yeah.
We'll so that means let's say that there's another scenario where you actually do know the Wi-Fi network password and you want to be able to leave a device that's going to operate autonomously so you don't need to ever go back to it. Well, if that is your goal, then this actually has a number of advanced features that allow you to connect to that network and then surreptitiously connect back to a server and either send information via just streaming it, which is kind of cool because you can see it live, like as you're typing, it's showing up in a terminal screen somewhere else. Or you can go ahead and set it up to do the email exfiltration. So every so often, it'll send you an email log of all the activity that has occurred, which is, again, if you're inexperienced, a pretty easy way of setting this up if you have like a burner Gmail account or something like that, and you don't mind doing a couple things. Admittedly, you need to enable insecure apps in Gmail, so I would never do this on your primary Gmail account. I would just give that warning. But if you do want to set this up to send emails, then you can create a burner Gmail account, set that up. Just again, don't save anything sensitive on it, because in order for this to access your account, it does need to do it in a way which could be abused. So it's not recommended for your primary account. James is also frantically trying to get this to work. So hopefully we can show off how this works. But if not, then with a little bit of extra energy, you could set this up to go over email. Now, again, this requires on infrastructure. So for this kind of attack, you would need to know the like Wi-Fi password or something to either that network or a network nearby. So this thing could lurk on the network and use its connection to report back on what people are typing. One interesting note also, I tried this out with a combined like keyboard and mouse like device, and it did not like it. it would only work directly with the keyboard. So I have like a switcher that switches both my mouse and my keyboard out to a single input into two computers at my desk. And when I plugged it into that and had like the combined stream between the mouse and the keyboard, it could not figure out what was going on, and it would not record anything at all. So this does need to be, it seems, plugged directly into the keyboard in order for this to work. If you have another device between you and the keyboard, like a switcher, then it seems like it ends up scrambling it a bit, and it's not able to actually read. James, were you looking at whether the email worked?
Yeah, that one didn't, because I didn't actually know you could do with Google. So while you're talking, I'll try and set up a throwaway Gmail, and we'll see if that works
sure.
too.
Okay,
I'll try
so
things.
yeah, so I'm going to go ahead and go over to Maltronics, and I'll enlarge this a bit. So basically, I want to show off the product. Oh, wow, look at that deal. That's okay, Jonty. So I'm going to go over here, and we're going to take a look at what I'm actually showing off today. The Wi-Fi keylogger. So this does have pretty good documentation. I got this one, and I believe I got the Pro version. Now the Pro version has more features. You can see that some of them undetectable to the target PC, 16 megabytes of memory, 16 million keystrokes, retrieve logs remotely using Wi-Fi, tiny, control using a simple web interface, over 40 keyboard languages, great. But then the Pro versions are really what I thought was interesting. Email reporting, so that's what we talked about. Timestamping. Sometimes it's relevant to know exactly when something happened. So maybe you're corresponding it with DNS queries and you want to know what login and password goes to what account. Well, maybe timestamping could help you do it by corresponding DNS queries going to a certain site. Wi-Fi device mode. So that enables Keylogger to connect to a Wi-Fi hotspot so you can access it from a browser, from your computer, from your phone, just by accessing your Wi-Fi network, scanning for the IP address of the Keylogger, and then connecting directly to it, which is what I've done over in these other tabs. So there's good documentation for this right here. And if you want to check out the setup and all that, in order to get started, I just plug this in and it automatically generates a hotspot. So the hotspot is named air and then something, and you just connect to that, and then you can copy and paste this or go to 192.168.4.1, and it will automatically direct you to change the SSID and password. So of course you don't want to leave it open so that anybody can connect to it. So it gives you a variety of different options for networks and types of security you can pick. And then you can also make it hidden if you want to, but I do not recommend this because it will make all of the devices you connect to it forever call out the name for all of time. So once that's done, then you can see there's the AirDrive data log, and this will continuously show information that's being logged. And then if you want to take this a step further, you can go into the advanced level. Of course, there's some filter options for how often it's logging or what types of data it's logging. And you can erase the log there as well if you want to. So I'm going to take a look. Michael's probably going to have to blur some of this. But here we can see right now, the settings are set to create an access point called regular net. I chose this, James, because I thought it was a very low-key, very regular type network that nobody would suspect. And right now it is an open network. But you can see if you want to try to attack this, maybe I'll have to try this as a web network and see if I can attack it. It's very rare to see microcontrollers that can be put into a WEP access mode. So maybe I'll just use this as a pinata, like a Wi-Fi pinata, and set it up as a WEP and see if I can crack it real fast. That'd be fun. James, I'm just saying, I don't know how to make the ESP8266 into a WEP network, and if I could, it would be really fun to use it as a little CTF, teaching people about how terrible WEP is. But if this could do it, then hey, it has an undocumented feature, isn't that right?
I'm sure you can.
Yeah.
I don't even know if it. I would expect it to be documented, actually, setting up a. Maybe.
Because it's not secure. They recommend it so strongly that they don't provide official documentation for how to do it. Pretty funny.
Documentation? Interesting.
Yeah. So here I can see that there's also a warning where if you fail to memorize the network name and password, then you will not get access to this administrative panel again. And you'll probably have to reflash it or something. So just keep that in mind. Like once you set this up, then it will not allow you access once you set the username and password, or sorry, set the Wi-Fi network name and password to something impossible to remember. So then we get into the settings for key logging. So we can see some special keys, all special keys, or no special keys. We can see the keyboard layout. So here we can select lots of different keyboards, and even there's a special one for Mac OS keyboards. Very interesting. So we're going to leave it just English US standard for now, but this will of course affect the way that it reports back keystrokes. If we set this wrong, then it's going to look like a bunch of crazy gibberish, and we don't want that, do we, James?
No, absolutely not.
No, James would hate that. So here I'm going to go ahead and click on erase log, and it says yes, erase the log. So we're going to start from scratch, and we can see now that the data log is empty. How sad for the data log. So I'm going to go over here to Meltronics, and I'm going to go to, let's see, Dougal.com, my favorite website. And actually, this is not my favorite website. We're going to go to mydougal.com, and we're going to log in. So I'm going to do, oh, okay. There's, well, no, I can't just click that. I have to actually log in. So my Dougal123 and my password. Okay, and then I'm going to tab, enter. I'm going to log, oh, no, that's not what I wanted to do. Se connecte. Okay, great. So, oh no, I can't connect. All right, but let's go ahead and go back to the error log, and look at that. There's nothing. But if I click again, there it is. So we can see that it auto-completed. I was typing mydougal.c, and then it recognized it, and I just pressed enter, and it automatically navigated. Very funny. So we can see my username was mydougal123, and then my password was passworddougal411. And then another time it was just password Dougal123. So already we're successfully logging. And the way this is configured is I'm not actually directly connected to it, because if I was, there would be one disadvantage on my end. So James, can you think of a disadvantage for somebody who's trying to do something like logging keystrokes while doing other sorts of hacking, or maybe looking something up, if they're directly connected to the access point of the keylogger?
You probably need to be there again. On the same network.
Yes, that's one. What happens to your computer when you're connected to like an IoT device's access point?
You can't use the internet?
That's right. You can't use the friggin' internet. So that's two reasons. You thought of one I didn't even think of. So like in the access point mode, this thing will not allow you to use the internet because your computer is directly connected to this. So, I mean, you can have two wireless cards. Like, there's other ways you can potentially get around this. But really, there is a disadvantage here if we're just going to leave this to access point mode. So, James said it best, like, we can't use the internet, and that would be really annoying if we maybe forget a command and need to look it up. Guess what? You got to disconnect, look it up, and then come back, which is truly irritating. So, if we want to save this log, then we can do it by clicking download right here. But if we want to go into the settings and then go down here to advanced, we're going to get some stuff that Michael has to blur. There we go. So now we're in our advanced settings. We're looking at Wi-Fi devices. So what we're doing here is we're actually connecting our Wi-Fi keylogger to an access point. So instead of being an access point, it is becoming a client. James, can you explain the difference between an access point and a client?
Clients connect to the access point, sorry.
Right. So I guess, sure. Yeah, so an access point is like a Wi-Fi network, and a client is a device that's connected to that network. So we're flipping it basically, and if we are connected to an access point that does validly have internet, and this thing is our Wi-Fi keylogger is also connected to that access point, then guess what? We can access this interface without needing to give up internet. So we can still use the internet because we're connected to a valid access point, and we can also access our Wi-Fi keylogger because it's also connected to the access point. So 2 different ways of accessing this device. Again, I feel that there's more disadvantages to just using the access point mode. If you have the ability to either pop up an access point that it can connect to, or live off the land and just hack the Wi-Fi network and get the password, and then have the Wi-Fi keylogger connect back to the office network, like that would obviously be the preferable way a hacker would want to do this. So here I have it connected, and once we establish a valid connection, then we can just click on Save Wi-Fi Device Settings, and that will allow us to basically set this up as a client instead. Now, it does actually still, I'm gonna verify this by looking it up very quickly on my phone and seeing which networks are available, but I believe it still broadcasts as an access point, even though I have set it up as a client. So I think you can still do both with the question mark, maybe. But either way, like it's a way where you can change how your access. Yeah, okay, regular net is still up. So you can still access the Wi-Fi keylogger from the access point mode, even if you have it set up as a Wi-Fi client. Did you know that, James? Because I didn't. I just learned that just now.
I did not know that. Very cool.
Wow.
Very cool, Cody.
All right, so next up we have time stamping. So James, why would time stamping be useful when you're doing keylogging?
So you can see when they were entering their passwords and when they were using their devices.
Right, exactly. And also, if you have other information, you can correspond. Like, again, like DNS traffic or other network traffic. Let's say that you have, like, owned the network and you're in and able to see what kinds of DNS queries are going out. Well, you can very quickly figure out what people's usernames and passwords are on various services by just looking at the DNS queries that go out before you grab a username and password. So timestamps are what will enable you to correspond those two things so you can make sure that you're looking at the correct service. Which is a clever way of doing it. So automatically it comes populated with a time server. James, what time zone should I put?
UTC +1.
+1. Okay, what's that for?
British summertime.
Ah, that's nice. Wait, then who's just regular UTC right now?
Nobody.
Literally just unoccupied? Can we
Maybe,
take it?
No, maybe like Iceland or something, actually. I don't know.
Ugh. Oh, okay. All right. I thought there might be an opening. I was like, let's just move to 0. All right. So then you can see also there's daylight savings time, also known as summertime in Europe, as James, I guess, would call it. Should I enable summertime, James?
Well, then it'll be like you're in Europe, which is kind of weird.
Yeah, it would be. Okay, well, then let's not do that. All right, so then we have 12-hour format. I did that for your benefit, James, because I know you hate, AM, PM time. Oh wait, no, sorry.
You put it into.
I have to uncheck it. Yeah, sorry. I thought it was.
Thanks, Cody.
I thought it was inverted. All right, cool. So
I know you
now
hate it, so I turned it on just for you.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry, I've made you more comfortable now. And then also an inactivity period, which will trigger a timestamp. Okay. Well. Oh, so basically it tells you how long to wait until you just say like, okay, nothing happened. Kind of seems like it might like add a bunch of junk to your file, but if you want to add it, then you can if that factor is interesting to you. So now we have some more stuff that Michael gets to blur. This is the email settings. So this is what we were talking about, the advanced settings that will allow us to actually send this out to a server. James, did that work?
No. So maybe it will now, or when we try it. But
well, I mean, it should have worked already. So this works, I'm sure. But it doesn't work for us right now, so, whatever. So here you can select whether or not you want to enable this entire thing. If this isn't checked, then it's not enabled. So if this isn't, good to go, then you're not going to get an email report. Next up, we need to put in the recipient. So this is like who we're sending it to. Maybe we should just send this to someone else. Who knows? But we have our report interval, so how long we should wait in between sending out a report. We have it set to 1 minute, which is currently the minimum. Our SMTP server, so that is set currently to our free one, SMTP username, SMTP password, and SMTP port. So once all those are enabled, then we can scroll down here and click on Save Email Reporting Settings, and that will allow us to theoretically, anyway, I'm going to click it again, receive reports. All right, so let's scroll down. We clicked it again. And I'm hoping now that this will work. I don't know why it would suddenly work, but whatever. Okay,
well,
so
if
let's
it doesn't
talk about.
Work, I have a Gmail one that we can try, so I have that.
Okay, cool. Yeah, maybe I'll try that. We can try that last. All right, so let's talk about data streaming. So, James, can you describe this feature?
Describe this feature.
Yeah, like what
So
a data stream is.
sending data over a socket to a device, I suppose. UDP is there's two sort of things that are used for stuff like this: TCP and UDP. UDP doesn't ensure delivery, basically. So it
Hmm,
may get there, it may not. It just sends it, which
right.
is for this purpose probably easier to implement. So you can
Right,
just
because yeah,
monitor.
if it's not going to cause also a bunch of like crashing and stuff. If something isn't receiving and acknowledging it, it'll just keep sending.
Yeah, exactly. And
So,
yeah, if you're listening
sorry, go on.
and you have the everything set up correctly, like the port and the IP, you should receive it.
Yeah, and it's not that hard to set up. So I thought that this would be more difficult. And here you can see it even links to a example client for Windows. So if you're running Windows, there's built-in documentation here, which I think is really cool and useful. But I'm not using Windows, so I got to do this manually. James, if you needed to basically digest like a data stream over UDP, what would you use?
Netcat.
Netcat, hell yeah. That's exactly what we're going to use. Great job. All right, so here you can see all of my secrets. All these secrets are here, and that's terrible for me. So I'm going to, oops. I'm going to try to make a new window. Yeah, there we go. And let's watch this. So I'm going to type in a secret. And as you can see, it's ratting me out right below the sucks. Like everything I'm typing in here is immediately being reported to the second window. Now, how is this happening? Well, all right, first, what I need to do is I need to make this bigger so you can see it. There. So what we're gonna do here is if let's say that I am the attacker, all right, I want this to connect back to me and start giving me a digest of the victim. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna cancel this. I'm gonna show the command I'm using. I'm just using nc-u-l and then 2399. What is 2399? It's a random port number that I picked in order to stream the data to a particular port. Now what I'm doing here is I'm telling Netcat, hey, I want to listen on a UDP port, so I'm listening for UDP packets on port 2399, and I just want you to display anything that is sent here. That's all. So I'm basically opening up a port and starting to listen. And if I press enter, then provided the matching information is input here, in this case, my IP address, and then the port number that I just input in Netcat, then I should be able to receive, oops, well, now I'm just typing directly into it. Yeah, now okay, yes, I'm both typing into it and also seeing myself backspace on it. So, okay, how would I actually find my IP address? Well, let's see. Why don't I? So if I ifconfig, most of this will probably be blurred by Michael, but I can scroll up to find which one of these interfaces actually matter. And here I can see that my IP address is 192.168.0.162. So that's really all the information I need. I know the port number that I set. In this case, it's 2399. I know my IP address. So with both of those done, I am now able to start streaming directly. And this could also be any computer on the local network, or it could be a remote device. So if I were to start up, oh, I should have done that. I'm actually kind of mad at Amazon right now, so I'm not gonna spin up an Amazon like computer. But if I wanted to, I could do a bunch of different things, like be able to set up like an Amazon instance and just basically listen on a server that has its own IP address that's just waiting there for these keystrokes from anywhere on the internet. Again, this is provided that if you are going after a target that maybe you know the Wi-Fi network, maybe there's a nearby Wi-Fi network, it has some sort of ability to connect the Wi-Fi keylogger to an access point. If you can't do that, then it can't use some of these more advanced features, and you're going to need to use it either in access point mode and like come back later, or like establish a connection directly to it from a distance, or maybe retrieve it later and download the logs. All those are perfectly valid ways of using it. James, do you want to maybe try setting up the email? I'm assuming it's still not working.
Sure. Should it be sending right now?
It absolutely should be sending right now. And it's
Okay, well,
definitely
then
logging.
that's
So
not
if I go
working.
here, yeah.
Yeah, which is a shame. Okay, so let's try the alternative one. If you open up your signal, I'll send you
Yeah, go ahead and switch
Or
away
more-
from my screen, unless Michael wants to
blurring
do a
from my
bunch of blurring later.
So,
So what we're going to do is we're going to try to see if it works to set this up using just like a burner Gmail account, right?
that's exactly correct. So what I did is I enabled less secure apps in the Gmail settings, and I generated an app password, and hopefully that together will allow us to create something. Originally, I was trying to hook something up to your crimes.gay domain, but I guess DNS isn't updating fast enough for that to work for us today. So
That's
see
very
if
funny.
This can work with a.
All right,
Gmail.
so I'm inputting credentials. So hold on just a second. I love the email name, by the way.
Thank you.
And then I also like the fact that like most of this other stuff is just default. So, okay, I think we can switch. Well, actually, let me close Signal because who knows what's going to happen.
Also,
okay.
just briefly, it mentioned that there is a separate SMTP port for Gmail. Make sure you put that
Yes. Yes. Okay, so let's switch over to my screen. So, all right. So James has been so kind as to put together a burner Gmail account. So we have our Gmail account. We have our interval again, so how long we're waiting in between reports. We're just copying and pasting this over from Gmail usesmtp.gmail.com. Here we have the username, so it's just our email account. Then we have the SMT server password, and then finally the port. So typically port 25, but for Gmail, we're using port 465. So I'm going to copy that, put it in, and we're going to save email reporting settings. Okay, so it is now saved, and it should theoretically be working if I've enabled it. So I'm going to scroll down. Yep, email reporting is enabled. So now I got to do some stuff, I guess. So all right.
Where is it sending the emails?
It's sending it to the same email address.
Good. Okay. Just want to make sure.
Okay, cool. So I'm going to try to frantically log into my Google.
Frantically log into my Google. That's something I don't think I've ever heard before.
Wow. Well, I guess you're just not in the know. Guess you don't know where to log in.
My Google. Ah, it worked.
Oh, okay, cool.
Let me zoom way out.
So shall we go over to your screen?
Yeah.
Ah, look at wait. So it dumped the whole log.
That's what it looks like.
That's interesting. Okay, so one thing that we can now report is that if you set this up, it won't just send everything from the point you set it up on. It will also dump the entire stored log and then send you an update to that log every minute. So very sneaky. Look, you got all my Google passwords.
Man, I got you now.
You could log
All
into
your
my Google
deepest-
account.
All your deepest, darkest secrets, they're mine. You're my Google
Yeah,
account.
wow. Well, I mean,
what I'm curious of if it is if the next time around it will continue to dump the entire log, or if that's just because it hadn't previously been able to email the whole log.
Well, I guess we'll find out in about 60 seconds, huh?
I suppose we will, just like that. Okay, yeah, it's dumping the whole log every time. That's interesting.
Se connecter.
So I just got...
Nom de l'utiliser. So reconnaît. So sad.
Yeah.
I cannot log into my
So
Google.
we had the old log, and then we had the addition of my Keylogger
My
tab
Padoogler.
password. My Padoogler password 245535. So
Hmm.
I'm sure that number is of extreme significance to you, but
Yeah, you know, that's my very favorite number. How did you know? So is there another email? Is that it?
yeah,
I just typed in even more
This is
credentials.
the second email.
Oh, it's
so
okay. All right.
in
So
about another
another
minute, we
one's
should
coming
get a third
around
one.
in like 60 seconds. So
About
like
that, yeah.
this is also something I mentioned you could do programmatically, like like download the contents of the email or otherwise like just have a UDP port open, like writing to a file, and then be able yes, AirDrive report. Let's see.
More my Google.
Wow. Blue Dougal. Dougal me up. Wow.
Himmy Dougal. Okay, this is getting weird, Cody.
Yeah, sorry. I don't mean to expose my Dougal. But yeah, so I mean, this is a pretty like sleek way of just showing off this tool. I think overall, if you have physical access to a computer, this is a very robust and I would say like pretty subtle way of going about doing this, provided that the USB port is absolutely nowhere that someone would be looking at it. So let's go ahead and take a look at what this actually looks like now that I'm not afraid to unplug it. So this is the whole shebang. It's not very big. It fits pretty much in line, and it looks, if you plug this in like that, it's obviously got the board like a little bit offset, so it really doesn't look too sketchy.
But when that's when that's in a USB port, that's going to look like nothing.
Yeah. I mean, let's compare levels of sketchiness. The Andromeda Deauthor is like an 8, and this thing is like a 3. So, I think that this is pretty successfully what it's supposed to be. A subtle tool that can be used in a variety of different ways, provided you have physical access and the port is not somewhere that is exposed. Now, again, you would be amazed how long I had like a totally weird looking device sticking out of the back of Michael's computer, and he completely failed to notice it. So very, very funny. And overall something that you might think that you really need to hide the sucker, but really people don't go back there or look very often unless something is wrong. So like, I feel like you could actually get away with using this in a lot of places that most people might not think. But again, if you have like a port of like a business computer that's on the 3rd, 4th, 5th, 10th floor of a building, it's very likely you would be able to connect back to this without needing to, break the Wi-Fi password and be able to connect this to an access point. Although that certainly is a really cool way to use it. And if you do, then you can basically be in your lair somewhere like 1,000 miles away, like sitting behind your Amazon like server that's just digesting all the UDP streams that this is sending to you and giving you hopefully a bunch of secrets. So, there's a lot of different ways to use this depending on what your use case is and whether or not you want to be anywhere near it ever again after you plug it in. But if you do have the ability to use the advanced features, I highly recommend setting them up because, as we proved today, they actually work. Right, James?
Even if my weird email server didn't, but yes, they do work.
We tried. We tried to use our hacked.gay server, but like doing it in the 10 minutes before the broadcast was probably not the best idea for like reliability and DNS to like have time to propagate. So understandable that it didn't quite work. But I mean, I still think that most people are going to use like a burner Gmail account or something like that because it's easy to set up, and like frankly, most people have 1 or 2 lying around that maybe they're not using. So if you do and you want to use that as a way of digesting every time this is plugged in, it could even be a way where, if this is connected to an access point for your phone or something, you could just plug it in and have it immediately streaming no matter where you are and already set up to report to your email account. And then you go and grab this thing another 10 minutes later, and if someone has typed in the right password, it should be sitting in your email, which is a pretty cool way to do it.
That said, only use this on systems that you're allowed to do so.
Of course, yeah. So, there's a lot of, I don't know what the laws are around, like keyloggers, actually. I know that there are laws around software keyloggers. Hardware keyloggers, like, I'm not totally sure. So I'm not going to say anything like pro or against, but obviously only use these on computers you have permission to. If you're surreptitiously stealing someone's passwords and you don't have permission to, you will probably get in a lot of trouble, and I'm sure it's illegal. Although I don't know the specific law on this one. I usually do. So,
especially if you hook this up to like your main Gmail account. So
yeah, and of course also for anybody that's asking about the trade-offs, or if you just joined us, there are of course trade-offs for using this versus a software keylogger. A software keylogger obviously has no form factor. There's nothing to be discovered, but you also need to be able to get it on the computer somehow. It might get caught by antivirus or by some of the great tools that are by people like Patrick Wardle, who has a number of different tools that prevent this sort of thing from being viable on a Mac OS system. And overall, a firewall could even get in your way and prevent you from exfiltrating the data, even if you were able to connect this to an access point. So there's lots of different if you were using a software keylogger and it was trying to report home, or if you're using this one and it wasn't able to phone home. So, This does have the option of directly connecting over an access point, which could give you the ability to connect to an air-gapped computer that a software keylogger wouldn't be able to do anything about. So there's lots of kind of trade-offs here to consider. But overall, I think this is a really cool and really interesting product, and I'm really happy that Jonty sent it to me because, I think I'm going to think of some more interesting use cases for this, possibly by combining it with like the Wi-Fi duck or something.
Very interesting prospect.
Yeah.
At that point, it's
Okay,
just like
so-
remote control. Yeah,
Right? Well,
sorry.
yeah. The only thing is you can't really see the screen. But if you but you can like type and you can see what they're typing. So it would be kind of hilarious to just like start like interfering with what they're typing or just like start like redirecting them to like other web pages. But I guess you'd have to get some sort of like screen. Yeah. Michael's constantly asked us to try to just like add the ability on the Wi-Fi duct to just like see like the HDMI like stream from like the monitor. And I'm just like, I have no idea how you would do that. But if you could, that would be awesome. It's just a small upgrade,
Yeah, it's just a small upgrade. Yeah.
James, you could do it in Rust.
Yeah, probably. Sure. Cody asking me to write malware on the sly. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, it'll be fun. It's for education. It's totally fine. All right. Well, I think that's all we have time for today. Thank you, James, for joining us at the last minute and doing Jonty the honor of showing off his product to the world. I think he probably appreciates it. And James, if somebody wants to pick up one of these Wi-Fi keyloggers, where might they go?
Maltronics.com.
That's right, maltronics.com. So thank you again to Jonty, aka Satonic, for sending us the Wi-Fi keylogger to try out. Again, lots of really cool things you can do, especially just using Netcat to just like stream it. Seems like a really easy way to get started learning how to use some of the advanced features of this tool. So check it out if you're interested in the Wi-Fi keylogger. And again, thank you, James, for hanging out with us today. Thank you, Satonic, for sending us all this great stuff. And we'll see you next time. Bye.